Hi booktube, Erin here, hope you're doing very well. Today I'm going to be doing the Reading Tics tag. It's a tag that was created by Kevin from Kevin Toll Reads, and I was tagged by James from the channel Quaint and Curious Volumes. And I think he was the only person who tagged me. However, if you did tag me and I've missed it, then please let me know or remind me. And it's a tag all about reading tics, reading habits. I suppose, I don't know what it's like when you're sat there reading, and little decisions behind the things you read. So let's jump in. So the first prompt is, do you only read at a specific time of day? And I don't. I will read at any time that I'm able to. Usually during the week, the main times I read are on my commute on the way into work, maybe on my lunch break, and then in the evenings. However, sometimes I read at other times in the day. Sometimes I read a little bit first thing in the morning before leaving for work. Sometimes, the weekend I might read at any other time of the day. So there's no real set time. I just make time, whenever there's free space, or I choose not to do other things to make space for reading, but that could be at any point in the day. Number 2 is, do you prefer to read in your work or everyday clothes, or are you partial to reading in PJs or comfy clothes? I just read in my comfy clothes. I was watching Debs from Rain and Read Stuff do this a while ago, and she was saying that she doesn't like sort of going downstairs and starting the day in her pajamas, and I'm the same way. I try my best to be dressed before I'm downstairs and getting started. I don't like the feeling of, I don't know, being not in bed and wearing pajamas, and I don't tend to read in bed either. I never really developed that habit, so I just wear my everyday clothes, and most days I dress like this with a shirt and layering up with multiple t-shirts, and so that's what I'm normally wearing. I'm not a full-on comfy clothes person either. I've never really got into wearing sort of joggers and things like that. So just a shirt or a jumper and some jeans, and that's me sorted in 99% of situations. Number 3 is, what is your favourite reading spot? Couch, chair, bed, outdoors, somewhere else. Probably my favourite reading spot is in here, and it's in a reading chair just next to me. So I'll tilt this round so you can see. You see lots of instruments there, but there we go. That's my reading chair right next to me, and yeah, that is my main reading spot. Lately, I've been reading a lot on the sofa downstairs. We've just moved the living room around, and we've got I won't describe it too much, but it's just nice at the moment, with us having the sofa right in front of the bookcase, and just having all the books right behind me. There's a lamp just behind me where I sit in the corner of the sofa, and I've been the last 2 or 3 nights I've been really enjoying sitting there to read, and it's quite easy to just stay there and spend quite a long time reading, so that might become a new favourite spot. Next up, number 4, do you snack while reading, or is this a no-go? I do sometimes snack while reading, or sometimes I read while eating a meal. As I said, I tend to have a book with me for my lunch break at work, so I'm often munching on my lunch while reading a book. I'm not too precious about that side of things. Number 5 is do you or have you ever peeked at the end of a book, or do you avoid spoilers at all cost? I'm sure in the past I have. I mean, sometimes I look at the last page of a book just to find out how many pages there are. But and rarely have I ever spoiled the book by doing that, because you know normally the last few pages of a book don't make much sense until you've got to the end of it. So yeah, but then I don't go out of my way to avoid spoilers either. I'm not too fussed by them. Sometimes I'm quite happy to have something spoiled, although I suppose I don't really hold the significance either way on it, and so it wouldn't really matter at all. Number 6 is, do you prefer first person or third person narrative, or do you care? I don't care too much. James from his who tagged me from Quaint and Curious Volumes, in his version he was talking about second person narrative. And actually I was thinking that the question of sort of first or third person, I suppose on the whole, is a very I mean, the word narrative is there. I suppose the word perspective is, if you're being a pedant, what you'd say. You know, it's a very fiction-based question, and I was just reading some poems by George Sertzes, or Zertzes. I need to work out how to say his name correctly. And there's a poem in here called the Photographer in Winter, which is mostly in the second person. And quite a lot of poems are in the second person and work perfectly well. And with James's example, he was talking about A Visit from the Goon Squad, which has a chapter in second person. Most of If on a Winter's Night a Traveller is in second person and works really well, and part of its charm is the way he sustains and plays with this this choice that he's made, that is, it could be seen as being quite limiting, and yet it works really, really well. However, my favourite, because that is what the question is, when it comes to fiction, would probably be third person. There is something to a first person narrative where it is all about the voice of your narrator, of probably your protagonist, and that's kind of the point of the book, like Catcher in the Rye or the Bell Jar, that have these very snarky narrators with a very distinct personality, and it seems like there's something to that in contemporary fiction that's just a little too something can't be too overused. It's a little overused, I think, and I think it can sort of seem simpler, I think, for a writer to try and write something in first person, and yet it's incredibly limiting. And I think, at least for me as a reader, when I'm constantly coming to first person narratives, I find them a little more boring, but that's just me and my taste. What I really like is a third person narrative that is technically a first person narrative, because you could see the narrator in the book as being a kind of character. So I'm doing my best not to answer this prompt simply, but a book like The Brothers Karamazov by Dostoevsky, to all intents and purposes, is a third person narrative. And yet there is a narrator who's telling us these things, and is but in the way that they're telling you the story, you get the impression that they are from the world of the story, and so it's not a stand-in for the author. Instead, it's another character telling you this, but you never know exactly who they are, or if it's just one person. And so you get the impression that the narrator of the Brothers Karamazov is from this community where everything is happening, and then that's taken to a sort of another degree in something like, say, in Tango by Laszlo Krasznahorkai, where you're reading something that really does feel like a third person narrative, only for you towards the end of the book, only for you to realise that the whole time, the whole book has been this one character's perspective, who you've already met, but because of the way that they're writing everything, or telling you everything, it works. But it's I've sort of spoiled Satan Tango for you, but yeah, it's there we go. I like giving spoilers, so I definitely don't avoid them at all costs. So yeah, the simple answer is I like third-person narratives, but then, you know, thinking of W.G. Sebald, one of my favourite writers, he often uses first person, but again, it's never simple, I suppose. So I like that kind of thing. I like people sort of pushing what you can do with you know, third or first person, or using the second person or something. Number 7 is, do you read dedications, author's notes, acknowledgements, or do you skip them? I tend to read them, and I tend to read them first. I quite like reading an introduction if it's there, to sort of get in the mood for the book, to get into the world of the book. I mean, sometimes the acknowledgements I might just sort of skim through, because it's often, you know, the author just saying, you know, thank you to all the people who gave them money, or read the manuscript or something, or, you know, loaned them their beach house or something. So that's not really so interesting to read. But yeah, author's notes, translator's notes, prefaces, forewords, introductions, chronologies, maps, anything like that I will pore over before starting the book, and sometimes go back to as well while I'm reading it. Number 8 is, do you have a favourite reading beverage? To my knowledge, none of my beverages can read. Number 9, how do you decide what to read next? Do you have a TBR? Go by your mood? Do you have set goals, or is it random choice? It's a bit of a mix. I don't go too much for random choice. I tend to have some set goals, certain projects that I put together for myself. However, sometimes I, you know, let mood dictate. I very rarely pick up a book and decide to put it straight back down as well, so I don't take ages trying to work out what book I really want to read. I'll likely, while I'm reading a certain book, at least subconsciously when I'm looking at the shelves, at other points in the day, I'll be making mental notes, and sort of, you know, things are sliding up and down on the scales, and so I tend to have a good idea of what I want to read, at least on more of a mood basis, whenever I'm picking up another book. So, but I do set plans for myself, long-term reading plans. I'm currently making my way through a few longer things, one of which is The Anatomy of Melancholy by Robert Burton. Almost every time I talk about this book, I give him a different first name. And I decided to pick this up because I was given it for Christmas. I was at my in-laws and I had other things to read, but I was excited about this, so I started it, and I'm still reading it. I'm only that far through, so I'll be reading it for a very long time. Yeah, I just picked it up because I wanted to read it, and I was excited about reading it. And I've made it a reading plan, a sort of reading project for throughout the year, where I'm going to dip in and out of it, along with Montaigne's essays and I suppose part of the fun is that this is quite similar to Montaigne's essays, and so although they're also quite different, and so I'm going to be seeing what similarities I can find, what differences I can find, and things like that. So yeah, I kind of set these goals. I rarely have set TBRs. I don't go so far as to just go randomly. Um, um, but yeah, I don't know if that answers the question or not. But we'll leave it there, except to tag some people. Anyone can play along. Feel free. I haven't looked at who has done this or who hasn't. But in the back of my head, I was thinking of some people to tag. So let me just try to remember who they were. So after checking to see if these people have done them or not, I'm going to tag Sean D. Standfast. I'm going to tag Elizabeth from Bookhams and Books, and I'm going to tag Joe Spivey. So, and as always, if you haven't done this tag, then please consider yourself tagged and give it a go. And feel free to let me know any of your answers to any of these questions. So for now, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.